Hello guys, and welcome to .vvm virtual conference. Very glad to have you here with us today. In this session, this is going to be a workshop, so I want you to join me in doing this workshop. So as the title suggests on screen, we're going to be setting up a CI/CD pipeline for a .vvm web application using AWS Elastic Beanstalk and GitHub Actions. So this is the workshop. I'm doing this. I haven't done a lot of edit here, so you can see the mistakes I made and all of that. And just follow along. So who am I? My name is Vincent Nwonah. I am a .vvm developer advocate. So what this means is that I put out content there to help you use .vvm better, features in .vvm that you might be missing, and I basically create awareness around the project and the platform. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for development technologies for my contributions to the .NET ecosystem, and I am a software engineer and a software consultant. I mostly work with Microsoft technologies, but I do other technologies and programming languages. Recently, I am finding that I like Golang very much. So for this workshop, what are we going to be doing in this workshop? For this workshop, we're going to create a .vvm application, and then we're going to take that application to the cloud, so to the internet, and we're going to have a URL for it. And we're going to configure CI/CD. So CI means continuous integration, and CD means continuous deployment. So at the end of this session, what we want to have is a .vvm application that we can simply, when we push to our GitHub account with git push master or whatever, git push origin master, we want those latest updates to automatically go to our application running in the cloud. So we run our tests, and if all the steps pass, we update our AWS application with our latest changes. In this kind of setup, you might not want to do this on a production system, but maybe you can set up your dev environment like this, or you can, maybe a personal project or a small website or your blog, you can use this kind of setup for. And you can use the same setup for any ASP.NET application, not just .vvm. So for you to follow along with this project, what are the prerequisites for this project? So first of all, you need a GitHub account. Obviously, you need an AWS account. You can create an AWS account, and you can, all of this can be done under the free tier, so you don't have to expend any money on this. You should be able to already create .vvm applications, whether from a Windows or from a Mac. For me, I am working on a Mac here, but if you don't already have .vvm configured on your Linux or Mac environment, I have a Medium article. So I am going to go to google.com, and I'm going to look for .vvm's Medium. So .vvm medium.com, there's an article there that shows you how to set up your environment for .vvm, and that is what I am just going to find. By the way, this is a wonderful place for you to find resources about .vvm. So you see using .NET Core Worker Services, working with WCF. So you can check out these articles on .vvm. Okay, so this is the article I am looking for: setting up for .vvm development on Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. And this is a 5-minute read. So if you want to learn how to set up your environment on Linux or Windows with .vvm, this is an article that will help. It runs you through creating .vvm, installing .NET Core to installing the .vvm templates. So you see installing .vvm templates here. Great. So I'll continue. So I have my environment configured for .vvm already. And then the last thing you need is time and interest. So even if you can't do this now, you can come back to the session later and just run it. Some of the advantages of taking this is even if you don't want to use this for .vvm, you're going to learn about AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So in my experience, a lot of .NET developers work with Microsoft Azure, or will deploy to on-premise servers or things like that. But here we're going to be looking at AWS Elastic Beanstalk. AWS Elastic Beanstalk is a really cheap way for you to install your applications, deploy your applications, and it has auto scaling automatically. So whenever your load increases, it just increases for you. And if you have never used GitHub Actions, I know a lot of us are more into the more enterprisey-ish tools, so all those huge deployment tools. But GitHub Action is really lightweight, it's free for a certain tier, and this is something you should look at. So you're going to be learning about GitHub Actions from this session too. So what are the steps we'll take to get to our goal? So one of it is we're going to create a GitHub repo. We're going to create an AWS access key. And this access key is to allow us to connect our GitHub repo to AWS. And we're going to add that AWS credential to GitHub. Then we'll create a .vvm application, which will be our sample application. We're going to push that application to GitHub, and we're going to add the GitHub action that is going to build, test, and deploy our application. And then the last thing, we just test it to make sure it works. So this is supposed to be a super short, super straight to the point session. So I'm going to start with the first thing. So create a GitHub action. I already have my github.com/new page here, and I am going to say sample.vvm. I'll change my naming, sample.vvm app. So I am creating the .vvm app here, a sample.vvm application. I'm going to leave this as public. I am not going to add a README or a gitignore or a license right now. I will just say create repository. So great, I have created the repository that I want to use. The next thing I will do is I will now create an AWS access key. So the next thing we need to do is create an AWS access key. For that, I am already logged into my AWS console. So one of the prerequisites, if you remember, is that you must have an AWS account. So when you go to console.aws.amazon.com, you log in and you go to IAM. So I am going to search for IAM. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. I will click on IAM. And I just want to show you how to create an access key if you don't already have one. So I am already on my IAM dashboard. On the right here, you see my access key. So I'll click on my access key. I deleted my access keys for this session, so I'll go ahead and create the new access key. As a matter of fact, I will let you see my access key, but of course I will delete this right after the session. So create access key, I will go ahead and say show access key because I don't want to have to download this and open a CSV and all of that. So these are the access keys I will use for this session. So that satisfies the step, create AWS access key, super easy step. And the next thing for me to do is add AWS credentials to GitHub. And for that to happen, I will come to my repo and say settings. And GitHub has this really cool secrets feature here, so you can add secrets to a repo so you don't have those keys within your source code, and then you can reference those keys from your GitHub Actions or from other places in your repository. So I'll come here and say new repository secret, and the name of this secret, I want the name of this secret to be AWS Access Key ID. So AWS underscore access underscore key underscore ID. And I will take this key that I created here and put it as the value. So I have this key here, say add secrets and new repository secrets. Once again, so for this one, the name I want it to be AWS Secret Access Key. So I'll take the name, paste it here, and I want the value. So again, I'll take this value. And you can download this for safekeeping, because after this, I don't think we'll be able to see this secret. So you should probably download this yourself when you do this. I'm going to paste the key here and say add secrets. That's great. So the next thing I need to do, I'll just close this up. So I have added the secrets to my repo. Let's come back here, create and run .vvm application. You know what, before we create and run this .vvm application, I forgot one critical step. Let's, so this is now going to be for create Elastic Beanstalk application in AWS. So basically this is creating the infrastructure in AWS that will hold our application. I'll move it from this step and I will add it after creating the .vvm. No, let's add this after pushing to GitHub, after pushing our application to GitHub. So this is going to be 6, this is going to be 7, and this is going to be 8. Great, so we've added this secret here. Let's see what's the next thing to do. So we need to create a .vvm application locally. The way to do that in Windows, if you're running Windows, you can just fire up Visual Studio and just create a new application and all of that. But if you're on Mac or you're using Linux, you can use the command line and say .net new .vvm -n. So this n flag gives it a name. And let's see what we named our repo again. I'd like to use the same name, so sample.vvm app. Hopefully I haven't used that. So sample.vvm app, enter. So we've created the application successfully. I'm going to say cd sample.vvm app less. So I can see that I have all of those things here. The first thing I'll do is to add a .gitignore file. So I am not pushing my build and all of that to GitHub. So I'll just go ahead and say touch. So on Mac or Linux, I can just say touch.gitignore. Now I have a .gitignore file. I'll say code and dot to open this up in Visual Studio Code. I have this project opened here. Now I can go ahead and update my gitignore. I already have the gitignore for Visual Studio kind files here. So I'll just copy it and paste it here, and you can get this from any project, any Visual Studio project. You see it excludes the debug files, debug release, your objects and all of that, and that is what I am doing here. Just to make sure everything is fine, let's go ahead and try to build this project. So .NET build. This is the sample.vvm application with a sample startup page. Let's just let it build for a second, and 4 warnings, no errors, that's fine. I am not going to check the reason for those warnings right now because that is not the focus. Next I will go and say .NET run, and let's see if we can open this up in a browser. Okay, so my .vvm, so it says this could not run because it was not possible to find any compatible framework version, and I know why I have this issue. If I come to my CS project, so, and if you're on Visual Studio, if you're using Visual Studio, it might not be. So here, it's created this with the .NET Core App 2.0 project. I am simply going to manually update that because I don't have .NET 2.0 here. I'll update that to .NET Core App 3.0, and I will try to run this again. And let's see how it goes this time. Okay, so iLogger Factory. These are some of the differences between .NET Core 2.0 and 3.0. I will just make all of those updates very fast. Really by just stripping them away, because I don't really need these things. I think that resolves that error. So let's try to build this one more time and see. So .NET build. So we can now build against 3.0, and I'll say .NET run. And hopefully this time we will run without issues. Alright, great. We have a HTTPS port. I'll take the URL. I'll just say open URL. And we have hello from .vvm. Awesome. Let's take this to GitHub. For that, I will just say Ctrl+C to shut down. I'll clear my console and say git init, just to make this a Git repo. And the first thing I want to do is just add only my git ignore, git add, git ignore, and just make a commit there, git commit initialized repository. That's my commit message, and now I can go grab that URL from my repo. So remember, this is, I created my repo, but I don't have any code here, so I will take the code, the line for adding my remotes, and just paste it here. So add my remotes, push my master branch. I can just type this out. So I have git branch master already on my master branch. Sorry, git branch master, and git push your origin master. Sorry, my typing isn't as good. Master. Great, so I should have my code in my repo now. So, sorry, not my code, I just added just my git ignore. And I think I can add the rest of the files now. Clear my repo, my terminal once again. I can go git status to see what I have here. So I have some unadded files, and I can say git add dot, so add everything that is not ignored, then git commit. I will use added project as my commit message. Git status once again, and git push origin master. Let's refresh this now, and we have our code in our repo. Great, let's see where we are in our steps. So we have created a .vvm application, and we have pushed this application to GitHub. The next thing we need to do is to create an Elastic Beanstalk application in AWS. And this is a very simple one. All we have to do is come here, and instead of I am going to come here and search for Elastic Beanstalk. So I find this name very weird, Elastic Beanstalk, but really it's just a, so think of it as an Azure web app, really, that's what it is. I will go ahead and say create application. I don't have any application. So for the application name, I'll call it sample.vvm app. So I'll call it sample.vvm app. And this doesn't have to correspond with your repo name. I just like to do this. So sample.vvm app. If you need any keys, so if you're used to using AWS, you might want keys to associate this to other resources, but I'll just leave all of that blank. The platform I want to use, you can use .NET Core on Linux or .NET on Windows. You can use Elastic Beanstalk to deploy other types of applications. So for now, I'll say .NET Core on Linux, .NET Core running on 64-bit Linux and 2.2.1. I will say yes, deploy the sample application for me. I will not configure. Actually, let's see what more. We have other options we could configure here. So I'm going to leave it to use the single instance, which is sweet here. So this is login. You can increase your VM size. So this runs in the background. This creates a VM. You can configure a load balancer, but these are features, these are settings you would want to use for maybe a production instance or a more involved deployment. But for now, we'll just take all the defaults, and I'm going to go ahead and say create app. And I'm going to let this run for a while. Let's see. So while that is happening, let's see. So the next thing we need to do is add GitHub Action for build, test, and deploy. Now the way GitHub Actions work is we can decide to add our action right from our repo here and just select a repo. So this action will restore and build your project and all of that. This action will is for the .NET desktop, and we have other actions that will do other things with different platforms to your code. But I prefer to add my actions from code, right, from manually. And what you are going to do is at the root of your project, you need to add a folder called .github. So if you add a .github folder here, within .github, you need to add another folder called workflows. So I'll add workflows. And if you don't do it like this, GitHub will not find your action. So I will add workflows. And after adding workflows, I want to now add my GitHub action. And for this, I will add a new file. I need to make sure I am adding it to the workflows folder. So I'll add a new file and call it build deploy.yml. So we're using YAML files. Just to confirm, the GitHub folder, the workflows folder, and the build deploy. For this, I am going to copy a sample GitHub action. I already wrote down for this. So I'll copy it and I'll paste it here and then run through it. Before I run through it, let's see if our environment is done creating. Not yet. Okay, so not yet. So let's run through this and see. So first of all, I need to name my action. So the name of the file can differ from the name of the action. So for this action, I am naming it build, test, deploy because I want it to do a number of things. If I want a test step here, I can add a test step. I will just remove the test because I am not adding a test step here. I don't have any tests in this project. So the name is build, deploy. And then I have this on key. So on says, when should I run this action? I am saying run this action when there's a push to these branches. This is an array, so I can say when there's a push to master, dev, staging, I want you to run this action. And I can say if there's a pull request to master, dev, staging, I want you to run this action. So what this can help you do is that immediately someone opens a pull request to master, you can run a GitHub action to test that code and do some things against it before even having to review that pull request. I'm going to return this to master because I'm working with just one branch here. So say master, and so I create a job. You can create multiple jobs. For this, I'm creating just one job. So a job is what should happen. I can specify the platform I want this code to run on. So you can specify that you want this code to run on Windows or on Mac or on Linux. For this, I am running this code on Linux. And because you're running this code on Linux, you actually have the full functionality of the Linux command line tools at your disposal. GitHub Actions has some preset actions that you can use, which I am using here. So I'm going to take this action/checkout version 2, and I'm going to Google it so we see what it is. So let's look at what Google has to say. So checkout version 2, this action checks out your repository on the GitHub workspace so your workflow can access it. So what this uses is it gets my code from my repo into this virtual machine environment so I can now interact with it. Think of it as checking out your code into a machine so you can now interact with it. So the entire code here, this is what it does. I could do this manually by maybe writing codes to pull from the repo and all of that, but GitHub already created some actions we can use for this kind of task. So I will use, so all I have to say is uses this and it just pulls in that code. And then I say setup.net, and what this does is it installs .NET Core and all of that on this machine for us automatically, and I can tell it with version I want to install. I am saying I want to install .NET version 5.0.x, whichever is the latest. And that's awesome, that's really awesome. And so suddenly I have my entire environment set up to run and build a .NET application. Now I need to tell it which CS Proj or SLN to build if I'm using an SLN. And I will simply change this. So this is from a project I used before. So I will simply change this to sample.vvm app. So that is the name of my CS Proj, sample.vvm app. I hope I'm not making a mistake. And so I'm saying, hey, just restore dependencies. So this will restore the dependencies. Now I am saying build this project. So I'm saying go in and build this project. After building, I will publish this to a folder. So I am publishing a release version of this folder to web. And remember that thing I told you about having the full functionality of Linux? I am using the Linux zip tool here. So here I'm saying, hey, take this web folder and zip it into a web.zip. Now, Elastic Beanstalk requires that for each deployment you make, it needs a unique version number. So you can decide how you want to do versioning, but for this, I am using another GitHub action. Remember how for this GitHub action has functionality that lets you copy out your code. For this GitHub actions allows you to get the current date and time in this format. And what I am doing here is to use the current date and time, the time when this deployment is running, as my version number that I push to Elastic Beanstalk. Great, so I use this to get a version number. And then there's another action that lets us deploy to Elastic Beanstalk. Let's take a look at it. I'll go to Google once again and just paste this in. Let's look at this. So this action allows us to deploy to Elastic Beanstalk, and it tells us some parameters we need to supply. We need to supply an access key, which gives us access to the AWS repo, access key ID and access key. We need to supply an application name and an environment name, and we need to supply a version label. Let us come back to our action. So remember, the reason I got this version number is so I could use it here. So I'm saying, hey, go to the steps. I named this ID version. So we are running all the steps. So go to the steps and then this version. And then in that version is going to have some outputs. Check in the outputs and check the time part of it and use that time as the version label for our action. And I need to tell it what to deploy. Remember this zipped folder? So we published our application into this folder and zipped it. Now I am saying take this zip package and send it to Elastic Beanstalk, and Elastic Beanstalk knows exactly what to do with it. But what is this application and environment name? Let us look at our create environment. So create environment is starting. Okay, successfully launched environment. So I think our environment is fine now. Health is okay. I'm going to click on this link to take us to the environment, and we see we now have an application running in the cloud. I'm going to come back here and I want this application details. So this is the application name. I'm going to copy the application name and bring it here. So application name and environment name. So this is the environment name up here. I'll copy this environment name and put it here. And at this point, I think everything looks good. We're ready to push this to GitHub. So now we'll also push this to master. What we expect to happen is that all of this is going to run and our code is going to show up here. So this should become a .vvm application. Let's try that out and see. So I'm going to say git status. And obviously we added just the .github folder. So git add dot, once again, git commit m, added GitHub Action, get status. Okay, now I can push to master, git push, origin master. And immediately this push happens, I will come to my actions, come back to my actions, and now I have an action running. If I click here, I will go ahead and open this. Let's refresh this. Now I will open this. It's setting up a job now. So it has checked out my code. So if you see it's checking out the code, it's setting up .NET. It's restoring dependencies. So .NET restore and all of that. So there's some warnings here. .NET Core 3.0 is out of support. Now it's building, publish, and look at the zip step. It's adding all those things. Okay, so it says we had an error here when we're deploying. So no application named sample.vvm app found. Okay, that's weird. Let's go back to our application. All right, let's look at this sample.vvm app. Let's see, do I have a typo? Sample application name sample.vvm app, environment name sample.vvm env. That is weird. We have sample.vvm app. I think I'm going to have to need a second to okay, let's once again just check that application sample.vvm app environment sample. That is really weird. This is weird, so I am just going to go ahead and do another build and see if there's going to be a change, because there's no typo. Application, environment, this is all good actually. So I'll just say we run all jobs. And let's see if we get the same error. Okay, so we're setting up .NET. Sample.vvm up. That looks okay. We have the same error. That's really weird. Let's just delete our application and recreate it. So I'm going to say delete application. Sample.vvm up, delete, and I will go ahead and create a new application. For this, I will name this sample.vvm app2. And I will say create. Let's delete this. Do a refresh here, so we see what is the state of this application. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this too. Okay, this has already been deleted. But let's do this from the top. So create a new environment, a web server environment. Next. Application name, sample.vvm app. Let's say sample.vvm application. So sample.vvm application. For the environment, this time I will set my environment name myself. So sample.vvm application env. I'm going to use this as the domain name too. So I want to set my domain name myself now. Sample.vvm application env. US East 1. Aha, I see the problem now. So I was deploying it to the wrong region. A silly mistake. This is a mistake I make all the time. So the region should be US East 1 because this resource does not exist in that region I was deploying it to. That's a silly mistake. I'm going to check the availability. This is available. The platform is going to be .NET Core on Linux. I'm going to use a sample application, and this is going to take a minute to create. So just in case you run into this issue with me, this is a problem. I forgot to change the region from US West to US East because this is not Virginia, and not Virginia is US East 1. I was using US West 1, which is North Carolina. So you should take note of that. I think you need to take note of this in Azure too. So let us give it a few minutes to run. And while this is happening, we can just look at the structure of a GitHub action. Or I'm going to update this parameter so I don't forget again. So this is my environment name. I'll copy this, update my environment name. Application name, I think application name is the same thing without the env. Great, now all we have to do is wait for this to finish. So like while we're waiting for that, like I was saying before, if you're looking for good resources to basically play around with .vvm, you can find all of that here. And please definitely follow us. We have a Twitter too, and our Facebook. We're always putting content there. And I encourage you to join our community meetup. So during our community meetups, we talk about everything technology, not just .vvm and all of that. So I encourage you to join our community meetups from time to time. Let's see if we're done creating. Okay, so we're close. So environment health has changed from transition to pending. We're just going to give this a minute to finish. Let's do a refresh here and see. Refresh. And you see it's creating some auto-scaling, some auto-scaling infrastructure here, right? So even if, whenever your environment goes down, it's so behind Elastic Beanstalk is an EC2 instance, and anytime AWS notices that your load is increasing, it simply creates more EC2 instances and adds it and basically load balances it for you. So this is a super convenient way to just get up a simple website. So you see it says created load balancer listener and instant deployment completed successful. Let's go to environments now, and this is it, still pending. Okay, successfully launched environment. So why did you? And now we have an OK message here, and this is terminated. So I'm going to see if we can. So we have the sample application here. I'll double check my application name, sample.vvm application, sample.vvm application environment. And now I will just double check sample.vvm application, sample.vvm application env. Region is US East 1. Let's double check. So not Virginia is US East 1. Good. We're going to do a commit. Git status, git add dot, git commit updated environment parameters, git status, and now we can push it to master, push origin master, and hopefully if we pray to the God of deploys, this time it will go without any issues. So we have this new push running. Running. Let's see. Okay, so it says starting deployment, and it looks like it's fine right now. It says environment update is starting, and this is a good sign. We just have to wait for it to finish. You know what, I'll just go check it because I'm impatient. So, so this is the one we deleted. Let's see if we have our new instance here already. Not yet. It's still running. is still getting updated, and even though we haven't reported success here, so it says updating health is green, but we see that our application has changed to hello from .vvm, so our update was successful. While I'm still waiting for this to report a success, I will just go ahead and change something here very quickly. So I will change something from our views. You know what, let's change it from the view model. Instead of hello from .vvm, I will say hello from .vvm virtual conference. And now we see this has reported a success. Awesome. But let's just update this and push. So I can see git status, git add .git commit updated hello message, git push origin master, and this time we now have that convenience of each time we push to a specific branch, it goes straight into our into the cloud. And this is just a really simple example. If you would like to learn how to do this with databases, so basically, what if you have migrations to run, or you have some complex work to do, or certificates to manage, or all of those things, you can automate all of those processes with GitHub Actions, and that is kind of the power of GitHub Actions. So if you would like to learn all of those things, and I encourage you to join our community calls, because we talk about those things there. Awesome, so let's add a step. So this is test, we already tested it and it works. So let's add step 9, questions, and I will say ask me questions and I will answer if I can. Thank you for attending this session, and I'm really glad to have you. Let's see if this has updated, and we have hello from .vvm virtual conference. Thank you.